Meantime, I can't, when I think about that you were a marine biologist, that just impresses me to no end. Because like, when I was young, I had no idea, what I wanted to be. Is that Tony? Okay. I had no idea what I wanted to be. And I finished college at 21. I was quite young. And I still, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I mean, I knew I wanted to be an actress like the women I saw on TV, like Donna Mills on Knots Landing, and Joan Collins and Nicolette Sheridan. I mean, I thought those women were so glamorous. So I went and I got my first headshot taken. But I wasn't. There it is. Isn't it glamorous, my hair on top of my head? But no, in fact, I was not an actress. I was a waitress at Tequila Junction, which was in a mall called Station Square in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The only other Mexican restaurant in the city of Pittsburgh at the time was Chi-Chi's. And they had a salmonella outbreak, and since it was in their avocados, they were screwed. So at Tequila Junction, where I worked for 3 years, the most popular item on the menu was the number 36, the fried chimichanga, and also the number 76, the fried ice cream. I wore this Mexican-style dress with a yellow ruffle at the bottom, an off-the-shoulder dress, and it had a bigger, poofier yellow ruffle at the top. So 3 years of slinging salsa and burritos and chips and margaritas. I was one day looking through the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and an ad caught my eye. They were announcing this open house that they were going to be having for potential U.S. Air flight attendants. And with my college-educated mind, it occurred to me, if I can waitress on the ground, I could waitress in the air. Yeah, that would be better. That would be a lot better. So I went to the open house. It was being held at this really fancy hotel called the Swickley Country Inn. We were all led into the ballroom. There were over 100 other applicants there. Like, I had no idea it would be this competitive. So we're all in this huge ballroom and in these big chandeliers, and we were each given 1 minute to stand up and talk. And based on that 1 minute, they would decide whether they wanted to talk with you further, whether they wanted to interview you. And it was such a bore because everybody sounded the same. They all said the same thing. Everybody said, I love to travel and I love people. In fact, this one girl, she was like, I love people and I love to travel. So I figure people, travel, flight attendant. Am I right? And I'm sitting there thinking, no, you're not right at all. Because this is like a customer service job, like waitressing. This isn't about what you like to do. So finally, it was my turn to stand up and speak. And I stand up, and with all of my 22-year-old confidence, I said, I don't always like people, but I know how to deal with them. Wow, the interviewers practically got up off their seats and started cheering. And in fact, yes, I was chosen to start the flight attendant training program for U.S. Air. So I traded in my Mexican ruffled uniform for some business attire that I borrowed from my sister. And I began my 7-week flight attendant training school, where they called us, by the way, safety professionals. So they put us all up in this hotel by the airport in Pittsburgh called the Royce Hotel. It was nothing like the Swickley Country Inn. It was like a brown shoebox building, and it was like dingy. But our days were spent in this nearby elementary school that they had outfitted as a flight attendant training facility, complete with a full-size DC-9 in the gymnasium. And most of our days were spent on that DC-9, going up and down the aisles. Pillow, blanket, Coke, Sprite, chicken or beef, a headset, hot towel. We had so many choices. Playing cards, magazine. One time we had this class in training, and we were told that if we saw something suspicious on the plane, then we should tell the cockpit, of course, right away, and we were to use the code word tool. That was the code word. So one by one, we'd go around the classroom in training, giving an example, like, Captain, what time are we landing in Tool, Pennsylvania? Or, Captain Tool, what river are we going over? And when it was my turn, I stood up and I said, Captain, we're out of toilet paper and coach. But mostly training, you guys, was about our haircuts and our makeup and our fingernails and our uniform. They were so into our uniform, you guys. You had to wear at all times navy high-heeled pumps, unless you were in the air at over 10,000 feet. Then you could slip on your navy flats. But that's also when you needed to put on your serving garment, which is like an apron. But you can't wear your serving garment on takeoff and landing, because then you need to be wearing your double-breasted blazer. Keep track here, you guys. You got to remember all these things. So they were so into it, the uniform, that one time during accident week, which is like Shark Week, but with airplane accidents, we were reviewing this crash from an Air Florida airplane that took off out of Washington, D.C.'s Dulles Airport. It was a 737, and as it took off, it crashed into the 14th Street Bridge, and it teetered there on the bridge. It crushed 7 occupied cars. It teetered on the bridge, and then it plunged into the icy Potomac River. I mean, it was a grim scene. The plane was literally sinking. You could see everything was just sinking until only the tail cone was visible. People in the video stood along the banks of the river, completely helpless, to try to assist the people that were clawing their way to get out of the river. There were icebergs in the river. 5 people survived the whole thing. I mean, over 100 people died. Only 5 people survived, including a flight attendant. And she is now being pulled up out of the icy Potomac River, and she's spinning in the air. I mean, you guys, she was spinning so fast. I mean, it was crazy. And she was wearing her serving garment. And the instructor stopped the tape and said, "You see that? You see that? Do you want to be on national television in your serving garment?" Yeah, it was really something else. Yeah, the other part of training was so crazy is that every week, the worst part I would say, was that every week they would weigh us. There was a weigh-in. And we would line up in that gymnasium next to the DC-9, and one by one we would have to get up on the scale and weigh in. And everybody stood there just like silently crying. Some people were silently crying because they knew that if they stepped on that scale and they were over their weight, well then they would take their books out of the classroom, put them in a van, drive to the airport, and fly them back to wherever they came from. Bye-bye. Sorry I didn't make the cut. Thanks for trying. But believe it or not, I got through. The weeks were dragging on. They would teach us all these different scenarios, you know, like, excuse me, ma'am, the guy behind me is kicking my seat. You know, please tell him to stop. Oh, yeah, I'll tell him right away. And, hey, would you like a Chardonnay? An oaky Chardonnay from first class? Excuse me, stewardess, could you please take this for me? Please, it's for my son. And she would hand me, you know, yeah, it's like a dirty diaper. I would get handed dirty diapers. But guess what? It turns out that I was actually very good at waitressing in the sky. And I made it through these 7 months of training, and I began what I knew would be my jet-setting life as a flight attendant. Thank you. I was on the far left, in case you were confused. That's awesome. Hey, producer, did Tony Sam come back? He didn't come back. That's upsetting. He's here? You can't hear him. Something's wrong. All right, that's all right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. We'll have to have him back. Or maybe I'll call him and he can tell me the ending and then I'll share it with you guys. How about that? All right, you guys, right now I'm so thrilled to have this next person on the stage. I've known her for over 20 years. She's such a talent, just a really, just an amazing person all around. She's a comedian and an actress, and you've seen her on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Mad Men, Modern Family. Plus, she's had several solo shows, and I know she's working on another one. And check this out. This girl, she was on The Tonight Show 9 times. What? You guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Cathy Ladman.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. Christine, have we really known each other for 20 years? My God. I loved your story, Christine, and the scariest part of your story for me was that weigh-in. Oh, boy. I was teetering on the 14th Street Bridge, afraid to be weighed in. That's what happened to me. Well, I'm going to take you back to the earlier part of my life. When I was a kid, I grew up in Queens, in New York. I think you can tell I grew up in New York. And by the way, I apologize about my hair. Before I begin, I apologize about my hair. But to compensate for that, I did my nails. Okay. I grew up in Queens, New York. 3 girls, three sisters in my family, and my mother and my father. And my dad was a very, very scary guy. He was a really scary guy. He was, and he was also very funny, but you never knew which guy would show up. He just had a lot on his mind, and he shared it in a very frightening way. For most of my childhood, my father owned a bowling alley, which was fantastic. I used to, every now and then, would get to go to the bowling alley with my dad, and sometimes I would bring a friend, and we would help out during the day. You know, we would give out lanes and give out rental shoes, and then after we were finished with all our work, my dad would make us lunch at the luncheonette counter, and we'd have like hamburgers or hot dogs or something like that. Or I loved the cheese that he had behind the luncheonette counter. And oh no, my daughter's texting me. I have to tell her that I have to tell her what to do. I'm really sorry. Okay. This is very awkward, but you know what? It's showbiz. Okay. So, so he would make us lunch, and then we would go sit in the bar and eat our lunch when the bar was empty during the day. And we would watch color TV, and I didn't have a color TV when I was a kid, so this was a big treat. And he would make us either like a malted milk or an ice cream soda or a shake, or it was really, I mean, like it was like a playground. It was really fantastic. And then we would go behind to where the machines were and look at how the pin spotter worked. Not the pin spotter, but the automatic pin spotter. There weren't guys back then. I'm not that old, but there was actually automated pin spotting, and so that was great. It was a great time of my life. But one of the things that really made an impression on me was when my father would chase teenagers out of the bowling alley. He really did not like teenagers at all. And he would walk up to these tables where the teenagers were sitting. And they were there smoking Marlboros. And the father would saunter up to them and say, "Excuse me, are you bowling? And they said, nah, we're just hanging out. And that was the worst thing that they could say, because my father hated hanging out. He hated hanging out. Either bowl or get out. So he said to them, you're not allowed to hang out here. You either have to bowl or you're going to have to leave. So he would usher them to the door. He said, okay, yeah, just keep going. That's right. Door's that over there. That's right. Keep going. Goodbye. Good riddance. Yeah. Then he would walk over to me and said, I don't like those kids. They're arrogant. I don't want you to be like that when you're a teenager. They're arrogant. So this didn't bode well for me when I was getting older. And when I was about 14 years old, sometimes my father would be around before I left for school. And this was the era where everyone wore big bell bottoms. We used to call them elephant bells. They were really, really big. And they would swing back and forth. You know, they were huge. And the worst thing that you could do was wear short bell bottoms. I mean, you would be ostracized in school. No one would talk to you if you had short bell bottoms. And my father hated long bell bottoms that dragged on the floor. Why did he hate them? Because they were arrogant. They were arrogant. Those pants are arrogant. So he would sometimes be home when I was leaving, and one day I'm almost out the door, and he stops me and he says, hey, are those pants dragging on the floor? And I said, I don't know, which was like stupid, because why didn't I just say no? But I had to be completely upfront with him. So he says, come back here, stand on the top step. Now, we had a split-level house, so there were like about 7 steps between the main floor and the upstairs where the bedrooms were. So I would walk up the steps like I was a prisoner walking to the gallows, and I would stand on the top step, and my father would look to see if my pants were dragging on the ground. And I'm standing there waiting for his judgment. And he said, those pants are touching the ground. You can't wear those. Get back in your room and put on pants that are shorter. And I was just like, I was crying. My face was hot. My eyes were burning from tears. I was just so upset. I had no power. So I went into my bedroom and I put on another pair of pants. And this time what I did was, when I stood on the top step, I hiked up my pants in between my thighs and I squeezed them together really tightly so that they would hike up. And he goes, let me see those. He said, all right, you can wear those, but I don't want you wearing pants that are dragging on the ground. And why? Why don't I want you wearing pants that are dragging on the ground? Because they're arrogant. Those pants are arrogant. So I walked out the door, and within an inch of my life. And I just want you to know that during those years of my life, whenever I saw a ring of denim on the sidewalk about that big, I knew that somebody had a great pair of bell bottoms. And I was happy for them. And that is the end of my story. Thank you.
Wow, that was such a great story. You guys, Cathy Ladman is the least arrogant person you'll ever meet, honestly. I know those pants, by the way. I remember them well. And we didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up. So as my pants, as I grew taller, my mom, she would just add material onto the bottom of my pants, So the bell bottoms got like beller and more, the bell got bigger and bigger. And you could basically count the rings around my pants, and then you know how old I was. So that's how that worked out. Is Tony Sam back? No Tony Sam. That's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear that. I will make sure that somehow you guys find out what the ending is to that story, because I know I need to know. Now that's not right. Here goes. Now I lost my my bios. But here, now they're back. Okay, great. This next talent, she is fantastic. I just met her about a year ago, and I was blown away that I didn't know her before this, because she is just a multi-talented girl, an artist. She's a comedian. She's an actress. She produces children's books, and her illustrations are just crazy good. She has all sorts of amazing little things that she does on the side, artistic things. She's truly a wonderful creator. And she also has done 10 solo shows. 10. I've done one, and I can't believe the work. And she's done 10. Including one was called Schachner versus Schachner, and it was voted the #1 audience reviewed show at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Abby Schachner. Yay!
I'm unmuted. Well, this, my story is about assholes. And I first met Aaron Steinberg in 1999 in a basement theater in New York City, doing an international fringe festival. And there was like a variety show where we'd each do a little piece of our show. And when I did my piece, a guy in a wheelchair gave me a high five. And as I was sitting watching the other people, I started wondering, he was very enthusiastic about my work. I started wondering, can I love somebody like that? And the other people were performing, and I'm envisioning our house with a ramp and imagining myself spoon feeding him. And then I kind of realized, well, he's not quadriplegic. He's just in a wheelchair. And then they call up Aaron Steinberg, and the guy in the wheelchair, he gets up out of the wheelchair and goes up to the stage. He was just apparently sitting in it. It was a prop for the theater. So he gets on the stage, and he starts impersonating a rat in a subway. And it's very New Yorky. Apparently he's from New York, and he's doing this rat in the subway. And all I remember really was this urgency, like this twitching that I had never seen before in my years in Chicago, at Second City and whatnot. Nobody tweaked and twitched like this guy. And then afterwards, we compliment each other. We exchanged emails because it was 99. That's what you did. And eventually I went back to Los Angeles. I had just moved there. And we did a couple of email exchanges, and that was it. And then like 12 years later, he Facebooked me, and we became Facebook friends. And we caught up, and then he started sending me writing. And like dense writing, like short stories, but still like single space, 20 pages long. And I don't know if you can tell by looking at me, but I'm not a reader. I had an interesting father too, and my parents were divorced. And I had a bit of an experience with reading where I told my dad I wanted to go home. He was talking to my brother. And out of nowhere, he went into the garage very quietly. He came out with a stick, and he hit me with a stick. And he pulled out a short story selection from the bookshelf, and he made me read a book. And it was O. Henry's story about Jimmy Valentine, the safecracker. I'm 10 years old. I'm crying. He finishes the conversation with my brother. He asked me if I felt better, and I said, yeah, I did. But then afterwards, just reading, my eyes go cross. Like, over there's been like a couple year span where I just read the mantras off of tea bags. I just, my tea, 24 tea bags, one a night. It's like completing a Dostoevsky. I'm not a reader. So he's sending me all this thick stuff, and I don't have the words to tell him. My eyes go cross, but I can comprehend some of the poems. Some of the poems, they're narrower and, they're shorter. And in one of the poems, he mentions this scar, and that a lot of the stories and what I could make from it, it took place on Coney Island because that's where he's from. He was a kid, and scars on the beach and the scars. So at the same time I'm communicating with him, there's this children's writers conference in New York City. Now, I don't know if you know this about children's writing. Everybody and their mother wants to be a children's writer. You go to these children's conferences. It's like being an actor in Los Angeles. They're humongous. They're overwhelming. Everybody's got a story about their dog or about recycling, and it's just overwhelming. And because I signed up last minute for this New York children's writing conference, the only breakout session that I could sign up for was about writing a children's series. So I go to New York. I meet my friend Stu, who I probably wouldn't have been able to do the trip without my friend Stu. He flew up there from Florida. He used to live in New York. And I go to the conference, and I'm going to meet Michael. So I go to the conference, very overwhelming. They always say things like, you can't be a writer if you're not a reader. then I'm like, why did I pay $650 for this? It makes me feel terrible about myself because of my little bit of an issue. And I go to my breakout session, and the person who's conducting the group says, we're going to now talk about our favorite series, and everybody's eager about their favorite series. And the only thing I could contribute is I like Little House when Michael Landon was in it. I don't know about reading book series. So I basically wasted $650. But I'm going to meet Michael at the library, at the New York City, Public Library by the Lions. So I get lost on the way, but I meet him by the Lions. I haven't seen him in 12 years. And he's wearing a coat because it's February, and he's got a stocking cap on, and his eyes look like November. And not that they're dead, but they look like brown and green and gold. He's got very nice eyes. And we start walking throughout New York City, and immediately he's got to go to the bathroom, okay? And I kind of relate to it. I'm a kind of person who likes to go to the bathroom, precautionary. I go to the bed, if I'm going to move the like 3 to an hour where it starts, you just kind of, I get it. I understand. So we stop at one place. They don't have a bathroom. We walk along, we go to a Starbucks. They don't have a public bathroom. I'm starting to get sweaty, and I'm seeing this twitch that I've seen before when he was on stage, in 99. Like, I see this weird thing starting to happen. And we go to a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and there's a single stall bathroom, and he goes into the bathroom, and I'm sitting in the Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the time's passing, and I feel sort of guilty. I'm taking up a table. I've got no food. Time's ticking. It feels like it's 20 minutes. I don't know how much time has elapsed, but it feels long enough. I don't know what's going on. Finally, he comes out, and I cross paths, and I go to the bathroom too. Might as well go. We're walking around New York. But I immediately start looking for signs. Like, did he go, shit? Is there something in the toilet? I'm like looking around. Like, are there wet paper towels? Like, what happened in here? And I'm very quick in the bathroom. So I'm extremely quick, save for the time that I'm like trying to do detective work. I get out of there. We don't say anything about it. And we end up at a deli on 2nd Avenue. I order borscht. He doesn't order anything because he's doing voiceover for, he's going to voice over a pigeon. He does very New York things, apparently. So he's going to voice over a pigeon. And he can't eat before he works. So I'm eating the borscht. And I say, what was that about the scars? You mentioned the scars in that poem. What was that about the scars? And he says, he takes a moment, and he's like, well, I was born without an anus or urethra. And I'm not shocked. My father was a doctor. I'd seen a show. I happened to see a show on YouTube. People out here in Los Angeles, they were a married couple. They had a child like this. They did a show about it. And so I had heard about this before, not being born, with appropriate holes. It happens apparently a lot. And he had a lot of surgeries, and his mother was a single mother. And I wondered, like, could I love somebody like this? And I looked down to my borscht. It's the empty bowl of borscht, and the bay leaf is in the shape of the heart with just a little bit of red of the borscht. And so we leave this diner or deli, whatever it was. He goes to his voiceover. I go back to my hotel, and for 4 hours, while my friend Stu is in the room, I'm just looking this up, like how many people this affects, how do you survive? Apparently, I looked it up today to remind myself, 1 in 4,000 kids go through this. I mean, just the surgeries. Can you imagine not having an anus or urethra? The single mother, I felt for him. But we decided to meet for dinner the next night, the night before I'm going to go out of town. And, Stu's not saying anything, but he's not going to be happy with me. But I go to meet Aaron at a sushi joint the next night, and we have a nice time. But then all of a sudden, I hear this squeaking. Like, I did read The Telltale Heart, because it's short. But it was like The Telltale Heart. I hear this incessant squeaking, and I don't know if it's coming from the manufactured anus asshole or the pleather, okay? So I'm a little distracted. We end up, and I never solved it. I don't know which one. We split the bill, and we go out in front of the hotel, and he kisses me. And it's a very tense kiss. And just so you know, I'm not a public display of affection person. I had a boyfriend once. He put his arm around me. I flicked it off. I said, I'm a free agent. That some boyfriend kissed me on New Year's Eve at night. One time I flinched. We got in a fight about it. Although I did make out with a woman once on Sunset Boulevard, horizontal on the sidewalk, bikers going by. But she was diagnosed as bipolar a couple days later. So that's my luck. But we kissed in front of the hotel, and his lips are tight. Like, they feel like anus tight. It's weird. It's just, I just all heady. I go back to Los Angeles, and he starts sending me more stories, and then he starts sending me the rewrites of stories and the rewrites of stories, and I stopped communicating with him. The years pass. I too develop my first chakra problems. I develop I have a hemorrhoid problem. I've been banded before where I had a gun to my butt, and the rubber bands, they are supposed to like jump on the hemorrhoid and kill them. It explodes. Something happened. Just to fart was excruciating. To take a shit was like a horror movie. The toilet, I had thinking that I had to relieve myself was the scariest thing. I discovered this thing called a sitz bath. Because I was living in a studio apartment at the time. There was a giant pot that didn't fit in my cabinet, a chili pot that I had. And I started putting some solution in there, like Epsom salts. I don't know if you know about a sitz bath, but you put in like Epsom salts or baking powder, and baking soda, and a lot of hot water, and you sit in it. And just talking about the story and my karma makes them feel irritated right now. Like I'm going to have to go sit in my sitz bath. And I'd sit sometimes, like, in my sitz bath with my unread New Yorkers, in stacks around me, because I still, try. I want to be able to be with the world and read. And I wonder, as I'm squatting, looking out of the world through my little bathroom window, can somebody love me like this? That's my story. I don't know. Did it make sense? I have hemorrhoids. That's what you learned about me.
Abby Schachner, you are an amazing person. I love Abby Schachner. Wow, that was amazing. Check it out, guys. This is something that Abby Schachner has made. She is such a talent, I'm telling you. Now this, what I'm holding in my hands, I'd like you to guess what it is. That's what I want to see. I want to see if you guys can guess what, in fact, this is. I'll hold it closer. Oh, I see. Okay, great. Oh, was I muted the whole time there? Wow. Okay, I think I might have been muted, but I'm back. Okay, no, I'm here. Right, yes. And this is what I'm telling you. Abby Schachner, she's an amazing talent. Go over to her website, yourfriendabby.com. This is it. You're going to love it. All right, you guys. I'm not going to tell you what this is till the end. You got to stick around. Right now, you guys, I want to bring up another fantastic talent. I've known this guy also for at least 20 years. And here's what I love about this guy. We share the same birthday. Yeah, we share the same birthday, January 7th. He is my twin brother from a different mother. That's what he is. You guys, this guy is an amazing writer and a performer. You've seen him on The Sopranos, Conan, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he's the host of 2 podcasts, Dear Anxiety and the Mental Health Comedy Hour. As a tribute to the corona, you guys, he continues to mask his emotions. Please, wherever you are, put your hands together for Ed Crasnick. Ed.
I'm unmuting myself, and I am so excited to be here, Christine. Happy birthday to you and me. And the other thing is, I have to tell people I'm multitasking. I'm actually on hold on a suicide hotline call, and that will be coming back shortly. And when it does, I'm going to tell the person that you can't change people. So just accept it and move on. The other thing is I want to tell you that I'm in the new musical Peter Pandemic. And not only don't I want to grow up, I don't want to leave my room. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that what I'm wearing tonight can be bought at the Timothy Hutton Ordinary People store, which is at Macy's, for the most obscure reference you can ever hear. And I want to tell you about a lot of things. My internet connection is unstable, as is my life. And I want to tell you that because of that, I'm going to do a story, because every time I talk to somebody on Zoom, it feels like they're coming from the moon. So I am going to do a story about the moon landing, but I'm going to back into it in a very unusual way. The moon landing was in July of 1969. I was 10 years old. And by the time I was 10, we had John F. Kennedy, we had Dr. King, we had Bobby Kennedy, we had the Beatles, We had the Ed Sullivan Show, a live variety show. We had the Vietnam War. We had all of this by the time I was 10 years old. A lot happened. And we were very lucky that we lived in a summer town that was about 25 miles from Boston, south of Boston, and it's called Hull, Mass. And to give you an idea of how old this town is, this town was founded in about 1632. It was the original site of the original Scott Pilgrim movie with real pilgrims. Real pilgrims. So at any rate, this was an old town, and it had an amusement park in it. It had a park called Paragon Park, and as I've said many times, my uncle did own a ride there. It was called the Rotor. It went around and around and around and around, floor drops out, and that's when you'd stick to the wall, and that's when you'd throw up, and that's when my uncle would take your picture for his throw-up gallery. He was a marketing genius. And it had a tiny neighborhood movie theater called the Bayside Movie House that had 50-cent rainy day matinees for kids. You could see a Don Knotts film retrospective. It was incredible. It had a wooden roller coaster that people died on. It had everything you could love about a summer town. It had a rock and roll club where when I was a kid, I sat on the steps and I looked up in the window and I saw Diana Ross and the Supremes Beehives bouncing in the window. I was too young to go in, but I did know that the Beehives belonged to the Supremes. That's pretty cool. But this town changed my life in so many ways, but there were two events that collided at the same time. We had this summer house. Everybody came to stay with us, came to see us, and it was sort of like a Brighton Beach Memoirs meets the Hotel New Hampshire. It was a very strange place, but it was just a few houses from the Atlantic Ocean. And even though it was a few houses away from the beach, it did take us half the day to get there and half the day to get back. Why? We took everything in the house. We took tables, we took chairs, we took lamps, we took a Davenport couch and a hassock. We took the Twin Towers of Dieting, big bottle of Tab, big bottle of Fresca, a ceramic pig with sweet and low coming out of its ass, and tuna sandwiches that were filled with sand by the time we ate them on the beach. The beautiful bouquet of those days, the smells, solar cane, sea and ski and prell filled the air. And by the ocean side, old men with their bathing suits pulled up to their larynx. Like German expressionistic paintings about to explode, penises were here, balls were there. Listening to transistor radios. Goddamn Red Sox. Why can't they win again? This is where I lived. This is where I grew up. And it was a who's who of despair. It was an Ellis Island piano bar. It was a strange family, but there was a lot of love and there was a feeling of unity. Two events took place at the same time. The night of the moon landing. Walter Cronkite on a 20-inch black and white Zenith television set. In those days, the sets were so big and heavy, you had to decorate the entire house around it. You could not move the television, but you could be moved by television. See you at the premiere. At any rate, it was a lot of fun. We had talent shows there in that living room. While we were watching, waiting for the moon landing, there's a family boarding with us. The guy has an ice cream truck. We're counting his change. They're playing Monopoly. They're playing Yahtzee. My cousin Beatty, Eunice, and Debbie are there. They brought special bread from Chelsea, Mass. It's all happening at the same time. My mother is yelling at people. She's saying things like, if you're in such a big hurry, why don't you put a broom up your ass and you'll sweep as you go along, all right? Why don't you put a broom? It was a very strange childhood. However, Walter Cronkite on live TV, gonna land on the moon later that evening. But there's another event going on, an even bigger event in my house. My mother had a lot of problems a lot of struggles with weight and with food, as did my whole family. And my mother belonged to a couple of different weight loss clubs. One of them was called TOPS. TOPS stands for Take Off Pounds Sensibly. And every year they had a contest to see who could lose the most weight. And they called them the king and queen of TOPS. They gave them crowns, they gave them bathrobes. They gave them gift certificates for Aramis cologne. I don't know why. But this one year, the grand prize, if you lost the most money, was what? A Tops mystery ride. They called it a mystery ride. And what had happened was, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but it was so funny. They called it a mystery ride, and I was watching the moon landing, and all of a sudden, outside the front door, I hear a yellow school bus pull up. And the yellow school bus is full of 50 women from Tops, all blindfolded. Their grand prize, their mystery ride, was a ride to Shirley Crasnick's beach house. They all come out of it with their blindfolds on, ladies and gentlemen, with the blindfolds on. So it looks like the Iran hostage crisis, but it's not. It's people who have lost weight who are there to celebrate. Now, they take their blindfolds off, and then they start drinking and eating like it's the end of Rome, like there's no tomorrow. They've fasted, they've died all year long, they've suffered. Now they're going to let loose at Shirley Crasnick's house. And so they go into the backyard. We have a barbecue. The first thing they throw on the barbecue, their bras. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 10 years old. I don't need to see that at 10. Maybe 11, but not 10. And so I'm watching Walter Cronkite. There's people in the back burning bras. There's people playing Monopoly. There's people playing Yahtzee. We are doing, as a kid, I did impressions, but I was too shy to have anybody look at me directly. So I go into the closet and I start doing the Kennedy family. I did JFK. I did Teddy. I did Bobby. I did Rose Kennedy. I did everybody. And I would do these strange impressions in the closet. People are laughing. It's all going on at the same time. All of a sudden, I hear, that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And I go outside. I'm looking at the moon and the Zenith black and white TV set. And I look up at the sky. And I was amazed as a kid that it's the same moon. It's all happening at the same time. I kept running in and out of the house like a cuckoo clock. Walter Cronkite, the moon, and the man in the moon upstairs, and behind me in the backyard, 50 women burning their bras and the barbecue from the Tops mystery ride. There was a collision. It was a collision of fate. It was a collision of weight. And it was a collision of anything that rhymes with those two words. It was all of that happening at the same time. Doing impressions, talent show, a feeling of community. This was Nantasket Beach. This was Hull. And this was one of the most important nights in the history of America. A little boy learning that sometimes miracles happen when you burn your bra. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being part of this. Christine Blackburn, everybody.
Ed Crasnick, you're amazing. That is a terrific story. You know, my mom, when the moon landing happened, she got everybody in, all the kids, 6 kids. She gave us each a framed picture of the moon landing, like from the newspaper, from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And it was like, we're on the moon. And we all still have that picture. And it's somewhere. That's what my point is. It's somewhere. And yeah, that was a big moment. No doubt about it. Listen, you guys, before we end tonight, I want to first of all remind you to stick around for the after show. If you have any questions at all, me and the other storytellers will be here to answer your questions. By the way, this is not connected to anything. I don't even know what I'm doing. What is? I was trying to make it like a real show, you know, but now that's it. Abby, thank you so much. You were just darling as always. Head over to yourfriendabby.com. Check her stuff out. And, of course, Cathy Ladman. Wow, what a treat. CathyLadman.com. All your stuff is there. And then Ed Crasnick, EdCrasnick.com. All your stuff is there. And guess what? ChristineBlackburn.com. All my stuff is there. I'm so excited you guys could tune in again tonight. We're going to be back every Sunday night. You know why? Because screw the networks. I have Zoom. All right, you guys. We'll see you next Sunday night. Thanks so much. My name is Christine Blackburn. Good night.
Everybody.
Buddy.